fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the season finale of this edition for the Ozicar Formula Skip Barber Series, brought to you by Simfinity and Virtual Motorsport Mentor. We are, of course, at Mount Panorama, Bathurst, for this race where we just crown our champion. It should be Matt Marsh, but it is never over until that final checkered flag falls, and at the moment he is only 6th in qualifying. My name is Ryan Jones, and behind the scenes is Jay Kennedy. My co-commentator tonight is nowhere to be found. Qualifying has got about 40 seconds left before time is up, 10 minutes. Only able to get a couple of laps in due to the extreme nature of this racetrack. 6.2 kilometers in length, 2-minute 30 lap times. Mitchell McLeod, current pole sitter, has only done 2 laps, and he is 2/10 clear of Ben Snell, who's on his 3rd lap, but he's heading down Conrod Straight. He's not going to get there in time, and he will have to probably settle for 2nd best at the start of this one. Russell Clark, similarly so in 3rd, is just coming out of the chase. He's going to fall painstakingly short of finishing his 3rd lap, but there just isn't enough time to get those 3 laps in here at Mount Panorama in just 10 minutes. Throw the outlap on there as well, and it just doesn't work. So here's your starting grid. Mitchell McLeod and Ben Snell share the front row. Russell Clark and Cameron Dents will start 3rd and 4th. Matthew Mites and potential champion Matt Marsh starting 5th and 6th ahead of Sean Doyle and Dennis Hancock. Michael Skurlock and Mark Jeffrey will round out your top 10. Braden Martin will line up in 11th with Jason Fewens alongside him. Peter Wilkinson and Jeremy Bush on row 7. Nathan Verney and Ara Felberg, Russell Marsh, Scott Melville, Leon Williams, Vic Bent Velson, your top 20. And pretty decent sized field tonight, in fact, with Cameron Cousins, Philip Howe, Backett Sulis, Lassou, and Isaac Summers. Make it a 25-car starting grid. And the last couple of cars are going to have to start about halfway through Murray's Corner, so they're probably not going to get the best of starts. The weather for this one is a pretty cool 18 degrees Celsius, 15th of November in sim time, a little past 4 p.m. as well, so pretty cool for only a month or so before summer. Going to be plenty of grip out there for the drivers, but this is Bathurst, and as we know, it is incredibly tricky, it is unforgiving, and it is effectively a street circuit. There are walls all around, certainly across the top of the mountain. You can expect overtakes, maybe down at turn 1, definitely up at Griffin's Bend. But then you've got to wait all the way up, across, and down the mountain until you get back towards Conrod Straight and the chase. Then we'll see some big moves up the inside there, maybe even around the outside. Murray's Corner as well. And don't forget, Forest Elbow. Can definitely spring a surprise there, but by making a move at Forest Elbow, you put yourself under threat of getting slingshotted from behind, thanks to the long nature of Conrod Straight and the high slipstream that these cars generate. You don't want to be leading, heading down Conrod, as we get ready for race 1, 6 laps at Mount Panorama. The first of 2 races tonight is green, and it is a good start from Mitchell McLeod. As always, these cars just walk themselves away from the line with the relatively low horsepower, but then they really start to wind up in the slipstream as we head down Mountain Straight for the first time. Has the entire field made it through the first corner? Yes, it seems they have, and look at them all already hunting to stay within the draft of everyone else. Not sure whether that was a car coming from a pit lane start or not. Certainly seemed like they were coming out of the pits as in towards turn 2. Here comes a move from Russell Clark, getting up the inside of Ben Snell and taking that spot away from his teammate. Those two will probably have to work together quite a bit in this one to make sure they stay with McLeod and maybe get past him. not something you want to be doing too early on. Not a track in these sorts of cars. It generally lends itself to pulling away. Even in the big, famous cars you typically see around this racetrack, supercars or GT, can be tough to pull away. It's quite some finishes we've had over the years and the decades. Championship finale as well. Going to be the last season for a little while as we take a break over Christmas and into the New Year's, so plenty on the line for our competitors looking to finish off on a high. Down through Skyline and the S's and into the Dipper. It's a wild piece of racetrack, one of the wildest in the country. And that is an incident further back, and oh no! Oh, we almost had only one car involved, but Darren Lassou gets himself caught up trying to get around Wilkinson. Might have actually hit his front wing that was laying on the racetrack. I saw that get knocked about. Here's the moment simulation replay for Wilkinson. Was it a bit too wide at McPhillamy? Answer to that is definitely a yes. Rear end stepped away, grabbed the curb, and it flicked him into a spin. And oh, someone cleaned him up pretty hard. Before Lassou got to the scene of the accident, he actually saw Wilkinson pretty late. He got hit from behind as well. So in the end, about 4 cars involved in that. Scott Melville, one of the other parties, and we'll see from pretty much his perspective, yeah, he was the unfortunate soul to first arrive on the scene and find Wilkinson stranded, heading into Skyline. Up front, though, there's been some changes. A new race leader in Russell Clark. He will lead lap number 1. He got it done at the chase, and McLeod actually had to defend at Murray's from Ben Snell as well. So a good opening lap for Clark. He goes from 3rd to 1st. And look at the run Snell got through Hell Corner there. Almost alongside him, heading up to Mountain Straight, which in the long run isn't the best of things because it means he doesn't get any sort of slipstream to build up and slingshot. You see he had to tuck in line, but now it works in his favour as he gets the double toe in front. Pulls to the inside for Griffin's Bend. McLeod lifts off early, and Ben Snell will take the preferred line through. Happened a bit later than I expected, but it does happen in the end. Cameron Dance is just sitting and waiting as well, hoping to keep himself in the fight. That looks like a new livery for Cameron Dance as well. Probably a throwback livery to something or other out there, but I can't quite put my finger on it at the moment as there's another change up at the cutting. That was Michael Skurlock putting himself up into 8th, so he's +1 from where he started. Still sitting behind Dennis Hancock, so Matthew Mikes has actually had a pretty rough start. He was 5th, he's now back into 9th, just getting passed by Skurlock and Hancock earlier on, so look for him to maybe try to come back as this race progresses, or certainly bounce back in race 2, which will have its own qualifying session. But as always, still looking at Dance. Top 4 have broken away. You can see the gap from Dance in 4th to Marsh, who is now 5th, to Sean Doyle in 6th as well. Those two are by themselves. If they work together, there's an opportunity for them to catch the quartet up front. As long as they don't go side by side through the corners, and some of the 4 in front do, they could be able to catch. But no risks will be the mantra for Matt Marsh. Just needs to make sure he finishes these races. As Ben Snell does the old shake and bake by his teammate and takes it away pretty easily before they hit the kink in the braking zone. There was someone going for a move in the background as well. That was Sean Doyle slipping up the inside of Marsh for 6th. And they settle their differences before they arrive at the chase. And Doyle using a bit too much of the racetrack on the exit as still the leaders tangle. A little bit surprised by Cameron Dance. He's not actually glued to the back of Mitchell McLeod here. He's, if anything, been dropped away over the last half of this lap. He was 0.4 of a second slower. He's got to be very careful. He could find himself out of slipstreaming range, and once that happens, he'll fall backwards into the clutches of Doyle and Marsh and the ever-closing group of Skurlock, Hancock, and Mites. Skurlock getting by Hancock, but as well off the screen. Here we go again. Teammates wheel to wheel. Clark will go back by, and they'll play nice up until about the final lap, and then it should be every man for himself up at the front. Amongst the teammates, there will be no team favours. Unless they still think it is a possibility for Russell to win the championship. He wins both races, and Matt Marsh pretty much came last in both races. He could steal it away, but I don't think that is going to happen. Touch wood. They're both very consistent drivers, and Marsh right now is running a very conservative, I want to say, race up there in 5th. Only got one car around him, and that's probably the best spot he could be in right now. Certainly around the most revered of racetracks in this part of the world. Oh, Sean Doyle very nearly clobbered the inside wall heading through Skyline with his right side tyres. And oh no, now he's made a mistake and he has spun it. Exiting the dipper, he keeps it off the fence miraculously, but this is a really awkward spot to try and get turned around. Yeah, he's going to have to be very careful about this. He's just backed into the wall and giving himself some damage he didn't initially had. Jason Fewins looks like he spun as well, slowly getting by Doyle, who is doing the old 38-point turn and now gets it. That was close. Gets it going, and Leon Williams had a very close shave with Isaac Summers back at Sulis, and Doyle slowly getting himself going again. And poor old Jason Fewins has come to a grinding halt at Forest Elbow, and he takes the tow back to pit lane. So the dipper, bit of a troublesome spot on lap number 3 of this race. But we continue. Up front, look at Cameron Dance. He was able to recover the ground he lost, and he's stuck himself back onto this group. So it is still a quartet that battle for the race lead. The gap over the cars behind getting only bigger now. It's 5 seconds to Matt Marsh, who is all by himself. That's probably the worst thing that could have happened to him, because as long as Skurlock doesn't make any mistakes, he should close up that last little second between them. And he'll go into a fight with Marsh. Luckily, Skurlock, for Marsh's sake, has broken free of those battling with him. Is a bit of deja vu. Teammates go 1-2 through Griffin's Bend. The order still Russell Clark from Snell. It was Snell that led at the line. That time by, though. Up through the cutting. Lap 4 of 6. Nothing to separate your top 4 in this race. A couple of incidents already in this one. There's a few cars a lap down. Cameron Cousins, Scott Melville, Peter Wilkinson. Sean Doyle has tumbled and gone to the pits as well. Jason Fewins is also in the garage. So a couple more cars potentially to add to the list of drivers a lap down, and maybe even retirements from this race. But remember, we'll see them back for our second race tonight, which should be 10 laps, we expect, with that mandatory pit stop as well. 4-2 tyres, no less, no more. Good run across the mountain that lap from Russell Clark, but it'll do him no favours. Ben Snell will latch back onto him, down Conrod Straight, or down and up Conrod Straight. They plunge down the hill, coming off Forest Elbow, but they very quickly rise back up a little bit again as they come over this crest, and they see the sight before them that is the chase. 300 kilometers an hour in some of the fastest cars that visit here. In these cars, it's 200 kilometers an hour, but you still don't want to be going side by side through there. And Russell Clark, I don't even think he lifted off. He just didn't have the pace to stay there. That is bold from McLeod, though. Takes advantage of the lost momentum and gets up the inside, puts himself back into second, breaks the teammates' stranglehold over the race, and that was close behind, heading through the kink as well. I think that was Mark Jeffrey and Braden Martin. Nathan Verney back there watching on as well. Jeffrey able to get by in that exchange. On to lap 5. It is Snell from McLeod, from Clark, from Dance. Their gap is 5.9 seconds. Is that a mistake or is that tactical from Ben Snell? Poor exit. McLeod goes by, and here comes Russell Clark taking him 3 wide down Mountain Straight. Snell's going to tuck in behind. Russell Clark's got the best run of them all, but McLeod's got the preferred line. Now Cameron Dance gets amongst it. It's 2x2 into Griffin's Bend. How do they emerge? McLeod gets himself up front. Clark holds second. Snell then from the lead back to third on this lap, and Dance is still fourth. A little teaser of what could come on the final lap of the race, though. Won't be many of them throwing caution or lifting on the last lap. Right now, there's still a chance for them to shake things in their favour. Through top we go, past the Great. The infamous Great, probably the most famous drainage cover in all of Australia. And then McPhillamy and Skyline. This radical drop that plunges you down the mountain at a terrifying rate of knots. You head down there and you're facing at concrete and tyre bundles all the way down the hill, trying to slow the car down and wrestle it through a series of lefts and rights. Freewheeling it at some point as you head across the Dipper as well. Now you can breathe and relax, but not so much if you're amongst the top four right now. You've really got to be smart about where you place yourself heading up this hill. You've got to stay right in the tyre tracks of that car in front. And now if you're second place, Russell Clark, do you go for the move? Yes, you do, up the inside. McLeod won't fight this one, I don't think. Clark's got the spot into the chase. McLeod settles in line, and look at Dance making advantage of all of that. Ben Snell, horrible lap, goes from the lead to fourth, and if it was a tactical decision, exiting Hell Corner, I don't think it's worked out in his favour. You don't want to be the last of the four heading onto this final lap, but you do probably want to be second or third as we begin the final lap at Mount Panorama for race 1 of the final race of the season. In towards Hell Corner. Russell Clark leads Mitchell McLeod, Cameron Dance and Ben Snell. 6.7 seconds in hand over Matt Marsh. He's still got 7/10 over Skurlock. Mike Hancock, Vernie, Martin, the rest of your top 10. But up front, here comes McLeod, looking to the inside for Griffin's Bend. You'll take the spot away. This isn't the end of the world for Clark. This gives him a run. Up Conrod straight. Not if Cameron Dance gets up the inside as well. That's exactly what he does. Cameron Dance has been sitting in fourth this whole race. Suddenly, he's up to second, and Ben Snell thought for a moment he could get around his teammate. But the outside at the cutting doesn't look good. Was that a crash in the background? No. I swear I thought a car... I can't speak. I swear I thought I saw a car having a big old shunt out of turn 2, but either my eyes are deceiving me or they towed back to pit lane quick smart. Probably the first one. Nothing. Disastrous for the leaders, though. Half a lap remains. 3 kilometres left. Down the mountain. McLeod, Dance, Clark, Snell. In that order. McLeod's going to have an almighty fight on his hands to win this race from here. Dance and Clark are going to get the mother of all runs. So is Ben Snell, but he's got 3 cars to pass to make it happen. McLeod certainly hasn't done enough across the top and down the hill to pull enough of a gap. So here comes Cameron Dance. He's been sat in 4th all race. He's the only driver who hasn't led a lap in this one from amongst the top 4. He's in the best opportunity. The best spot of them all. Up Conrod. To the inside of Mitchell McLeod. Into the kink. A crash behind us. I think Russell Clark grabbed the fence. They both keep it going, but they've lost a lot of time. A slide from Dance through the kink, and McLeod back on the inside for the chase. They touch. And they touch again, and Dance is skating across the grass. A bit of debris falls off the cars, and still they're alongside each other. Did McLeod redress? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to. McLeod's got the inside for the final corner. Dance looking for the cutback. He gets it. He's got the momentum as well, but to the line, McLeod is going to get there first. And Mitchell McLeod wins the first race tonight by just under 1/10 of a second from Cameron Dance. Clark ends up 3rd. Still don't know what happened to him and Snell down Conrod straight, but I heard a crunch, and they were both very slow. Their ground was recovered when the top 2 touched at the chase. Let's take a look at this. What a wild final sector for that race. So on board with Dance as we head down through the S's. Oh, how close does he get to the concrete? Using everything. Pinpoint accuracy from that machine. And then into Forest Elbow. The exit here was where he sets himself up for the move up at the chase. But he had a little slide as well. That might be what cost him from being able to move across and take the inside. Let's look behind though, because are we going to see some contact between the teammates? A bump draft gone wrong? Yes. Wow. How on earth have they got away with that? That is remarkable. And then the top two head through the kink. Dance had cleared him and then he slid. If he hadn't have had that rear end get away from him, he could have moved in front of McLeod, taken the inside for the chase, and avoided that kerfluffle. It killed both their momentum, and for a second, maybe Clark thought he had a chance to sneak a win. But in the end, McLeod had the inside line and just enough pace exiting the corner to win a thrilling first race at Mount Panorama. Let's take a look then at your full race results before we take a break and come back for qualifying in race number 2. It is McLeod from Dance and Clark, your top 3. Snell ends up 4th. Matt Marsh finishes 5th. Pretty much solidifies his championship now. Michael Skurlock is 6th, ahead of Matthew Mites, Dennis Hancock, Nathan Verney, and Mark Jeffrey. Braden Martin, Jeremy Bush, Russell Marsh, and Ara Felberg come home ahead of Vic Velton in 15th, and then back at Sulis, Philip Howe, Isaac Summers, Darren Lassou, Leon Williams, your top 20. The last cars that finished this race. We had 5 retirements in the way of Sean Doyle, Jason Fields, Peter Wilkinson, Scott Melville, and Cameron Cousins. Stay with us here on Simspeed TV. We're going to go to a quick break, but on the other side of this, it's time for qualifying number 2 and race number 2 of our season finale for the Ozicar Formula Skip Barber Series.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome back to Mount Panorama. Getting ready for our final race of the season. Matt Marsh has got himself a lead that should be insurmountable in terms of the championship now. Because heading in, it was quite a buffer. He's finished 6th in race 1. Russell Clark finished 3rd. Matt Marsh has driven fantastically all season long. And they are the championship standings leaving Phillip Island. You can see there he already had a 25-point buffer. Clark would have shut it down by only 3 points. It is a gap that mathematically, yeah. But if Matt Marsh finishes inside the top 20, then it's a no if you're Russell Clark. Certainly been a valiant effort from both of them, though. They'd both be deserving champions, but there is 10 more laps to play out and a 10-minute qualifying session to play before it. As I was mentioning at the top of the show, not enough time to complete all 3 of your flying laps. Not when you include the outlap as well. Lap times are 2.5 minutes long. 2.5 times 4 is more than 10. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Be quiet, Jay. 2 minutes, 34-ish seconds for the outlap. You get the point. You can't do it. So they'll get 2 laps. First one will be a bit of a banker lap. Second one will allow them to warm up their tyres and really attack the circuit. But in saying that, no second chances. If you bin it on either of your laps, you're not going to have enough time to get back around, do an outlap, and then complete another flying attempt. So you put it in the fence, you're starting from the back, and that is a mistake no one can afford, not least of which Matt Marsh. But as one of the few challenges still standing between himself and the elusive Prestige Trophy. We're looking at Cameron Cousins. He's had himself a pretty consistent season. Been in amongst the action all season long. Been a name we've seen in and out as well. Wonder what he can do for himself here in qualifying. He's getting ready to begin a lap. Did hear from Cameron Dance as well in our little super secret Simspeed chat, talking about his mishap on the final lap of race 1. It was the curb that unsettled him. Saying the other problem as well was in the draft, the limiter on the car was completely bashing before they even reached the chase. So from the back of the 2 or 3 car train, you can't do anything about it. So, Ben Snell was 4th heading into Conrod. He had no hope because the car just simply can't get any more speed out of it to go by those cars in front. So that's something to be mindful of. You're going to want to be either second or first. Miraculously, first place worked out for Mitchell McLeod heading down Conrod Straight, but it wasn't without controversy, drama, or a crash behind and a crash between himself and Dance that allowed that to happen. Will history repeat itself? Well, we've seen most of the season the second race has generally been a bit more strung out, courtesy of the pit stop they're going to have to make. Talk more about that in a minute. Looking at Wilkinson now, though, he was caught up in a lap 1 drama. He found himself in a precarious position heading through McPhillamy Park. He was collected by 1 or 2 cars. Ended up being a 4-car crash in total. He had to tow back to pit lane, looking for redemption in this one. So he heads through McPhillamy now, hoping to not make the same mistake. And back at Sulis, has made that mistake, though. Just got a bit too wide. And when you do that, those rear tyres, which are already trying to step away from you, grab the curb and before you know it, you've got no grip and you're in the fence. Here's the replay. It'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Watch the rear end of the car. In fact, he had his snap of oversteer very early in the corner, and you could see him correct it. That's what sent him on the outside trajectory, and ultimately led to him finding the concrete, which is pretty unforgiving, and we know who's going to win between concrete and a Skip Barber. It is concrete every day of the week. He's going to be hard-pressed to get more than one flying lap in now. He should get one in, but it's not going to be great, considering his tyres will be cold. Shouldn't be too far away from seeing some of the first times coming onto the board then. I'm looking at Philip Howe right now, heading into the chase. 208 kilometers an hour the car peaks at, and then he slows it down for the chase. Maybe Jay will stop daydreaming about back at Sulis in a minute and show us some of these cars across the line. Cameron Cousins finishes his lap as well. Skurlock finishes his, goes to the top for now, a 2:31.941. Here's Philip Howe. What sort of marker is he going to put down as he gets a little bit out of shape, exiting the last corner? A 2:36.3 puts him just ahead of Peter Wilkinson, who we spotted a little bit earlier on. Isaac Summers, one of the many 111 esports entries we've seen over the course of Aussie car competition, goes fifth fastest with a 2:35.4, just in front of Matt Marsh. Well off the pace for all of those drivers. Incredibly quick for Skurlock and Mites comparatively on the opening lap. Certainly taking the banker lap to heart. A lot of those guys outside of the top two, it would seem. Cameron Dance, not one who generally likes to be conservative. We saw a lot of pace, we saw a lot of patience, I should say, from him in the race, but in qualifying, he could often find himself at the top throughout the entire session. He's missed out a little bit lately with the advent of Mitchell McLeod being involved in the season, but he's always been there or thereabouts. A 2:33, so even he is about a second off of Skurlock's opening effort. We'll see how that shapes up at the end of our second attempt at the racetrack. Vernie yet to complete his first lap. He's heading in towards the chase now as well. It is literally impossible to get anything more than 208 kilometers an hour out of that thing as they head towards the braking zone. Russell Clark, he's on his second lap and he's heading up the hill. He was the only challenger to Matt Marsh heading in. He needed to pretty much win both races. It was only third in race one. Needs a miracle for himself to claim this championship today. Ara Felberg, mastermind behind it all. Where can he put himself? He's had a decent run of late, having a few top 10 to top 5 as well, I believe. Puts himself 9th with his first effort. Not bad. Jason Fewens, his teammate, one of many teammates, might have picked himself up an off-track somewhere. Michael Skurlock then for his final effort. Did he match his first time? He pretty much did. Yeah. A 31.941 in his first attempt, so 31.935 in his second attempt. So he doesn't find an improvement. A noticeable improvement. Matthew Mites only found 2/10, so he stays second. Scott Melville completes his first lap. That'll be his only lap with 1:50 left on the clock. Jeremy Bush, same boat. Doesn't count. He's done. He'll be starting from the back. There's a lot of drivers without a lap time to their name right now, not least of which is Russell Clark. He's only going to get one flying lap, and that is bad news for him as he crosses the line. A 2:31.7. Okay, maybe not quite so bad news. Goes to the top of the sheets with a blistering lap. Cameron Dance, what's he got up his sleeve? Now he's 1.3 seconds off pole. A 2:33.004, the time he set previously. Looking to best it as he takes a bit of a late apex to that final corner. 2:32.0 he does. A 1 second improvement puts him into third on the grid for now. 55 seconds remain. Who else remains on the racetrack? couple of drivers in the similar place on Conrod Straight. Russell Marsh is 8th, bringing himself up the hill. Only 15 drivers have set times. There's about 25 getting ready to line up on the grid. Could be a few drivers out of place. Mitchell McLeod's one of them. He's not going to get a lap in. Mitchell McLeod's only heading up the hill now. So McLeod's going to have to start from the back, or at least the mid-pack, with how many drivers have missed out. Russell Marsh, then, an opportunity to leapfrog himself up the order, put himself in a brilliant spot for the race. Misses the apex for Murray's Corner. That ain't going to do him any favours. What's the lap time look like? Not too great. It's a 10th slower than his first attempt. And that is everyone done for qualifying. Let's take a look at your starting grid for our final race of the season. Our 4th season of the Ozicar Skip Barber Series. Russell Clark gets himself the pole by 2/10 from Michael Skurlock. Cameron Dance and Matthew Mites share row 2 from Matt Marsh and Sean Doyle. Dennis Hancock and Russell Marsh are 7th and 8th ahead of Nathan Verney and Leon Williams. Isaac Summers and Ara Felberger on row 6 ahead of Ent Velson, Howe, and Cameron Cousins. Peter Wilkinson was the last driver to set a time. He starts 16th. The rest of the grid is set by luck of the draw, I'm pretty sure. Mitchell McLeod, 17th, iRating, that's right. So McLeod will be 17th, Martin 18th, Fewins and Jeffrey 19th and 20th. Back at Sulis, Jeremy Bush, Melville, and Darren Lassou make up the rest of your 24-car field. So we're missing one from the first race, which is a shame. Track temp, though, is exactly the same. 4 laps longer. We do have a mandatory pit stop. They can pit anywhere from the end of lap 1 to the beginning of lap 9. They have to take 2 tyres. Theoretically, you could take more, but realistically, if you take more, you are going to lose a lot of time that you are never, ever going to get back. You want to take front tyres as well, because without that, you're going to find yourself going for a bit of a spin cycle. We've seen that mistake be made by a couple of drivers who were in contention for a win, and they very quickly weren't in contention for a win after making that error. So expect a similar strategy in terms of tyres, if not identical, for everyone in the field. The real strategy comes into when you pit. We've seen a lot of drivers trend towards the early pit stop this season. I don't expect today to be any different, but do expect a few at least to go long. And look for McLeod to charge through the order from 17th on the grid. But up front, Russell Clark, Skurlock, Dance, Mites, and Marsh are top 5, looking to resume the fight. As the lights go out and we are racing one more time in Season 4. Over to the racing line, the field migrates then. For Hell Corner, we get through. The moves will happen up at Griffin's Bend on this opening lap. Not enough speed being built up by anyone at the front to make anything happen at Hell Corner on the opening lap. Up Mountain Straight we go. Russell Clark taking a slightly shallow line, just trying to protect the inside, it seems, for Griffin's Bend. He does a successful job in that. He was up in this spot for the majority of race 1, along with Mitchell McLeod, Cameron Dance, and his teammate Ben Snell. It was Ben Snell that missed out on this second race. Some sort of drama at home, I suspect, there, in terms of internet, most likely. On board with Nathan Verney for a second there in the mid-pack. Frantic action back there. Drivers looking to work themselves up the order. McLeod's already picked up 3 spots, I can see on the timing board, so he's making early progress. But right now, there's no room for progress. Not across the top of the mountain unless you are an extremely brave soul. These cars, treacherous in the rear end. Can we get through? No, we can't. That's a crash for Sean Doyle, it is, who's creamed the fence. I was going to say, can we get through McPhilmy without drama on lap 1 this time? Sean Doyle says, no, we cannot. It slowed up a couple of drivers. Russell Marsh, Nathan Verney, all checked up, and now it's rush hour in towards Forest Elbow. Isaac Summers going to get by Leon Williams. McLeod as well, going to follow him through Ira Felberg snuck by as well. All a bit messy, but in the end, just the one car ends up with damage, I think, from that little kerfluffle. Sean Doyle now with 3 tyres. Well, he's got 4 tyres, but one of them is at about a 45-degree angle and not doing much rotating. So he's going to be coming to pit lane for some repairs and a most likely retirement. Big gap in the field as a result of that. Ahead of Russell Marsh, a long way up to Hancock. As into the pits come Matt Marsh and Russell Clark from the lead of the race. That leaves Cameron Dance and Matthew Mites as your race leaders. Joined by at least a dozen more, it looks like, from that shot of the pits. McLeod up to P4. It's artificial-ish as he gets by Russell Marsh. A lot of those spots are from pitters, but it is a good opening lap for him nonetheless. Look at that pit lane. It is busy on the pits as Matt Marsh emerges ahead of Michael Skurlock. That's a gain for him. There's Russell Clark in the foreground as well. See where he ends up, because he's going to be racing Dance, who's not got anyone to work with. Interesting. Dance has got no one to work with in terms of slipstream, but neither's Russell Clark. Not for now. He might get caught by Skurlock and Marsh, but not immediately. See if Dance responds. I think Dance has gone long quite a few times this season, so might expect him to do the same. Certainly not like he's caught up in any traffic right now. And there's Matthew Mites behind him, the only car really in sight of Dance, who will be pretty annoyed with himself for missing out on the opportunity to win the first race. Motor simulation replay then of Mites down the hill. Ooh, yeah, I see. That is what happens with the Dipper. Car sort of loses all of its downforce, and as you get the power down, there's not much willing to cooperate with you there, and with just 3 tyres actually touching the ground, the rear end tends to get away from you. And Mites did a good job to catch that slide, but it does cost him a little bit of time. Let's see if either of these two dive to the pits. Cameron Dance shapes and comes to the pit lane. Matthew Mites will probably follow. No, he doesn't. He wants clean air. Dance! he was dancing into pit lane, that's for sure. Almost clobbered the tyre bundle. That Velson in 8th. Wilkinson in 7th. These are all cars that haven't pitted in this race. Yes, they have. They have pitted. Skurlock, Marsh, 12th and 13th. Well, that would suggest... Oh, man. I love when your director gives you no info. So, actually, Cameron Dance is going to emerge in 9th, ahead of Russell Clark, so that's pretty crucial there. He's actually trying a bit of time as well. They're the first cars that have pitted. They're 9th and 10th. Everyone ahead of them haven't. So that's Matthew Mites, Mitchell McLeod, Russell Marsh, Jason Fewins, Leon Williams, Peter Wilkinson, Ben Belson, Jeremy Bush, and Cameron Cousins. Russell Marsh pitted on that lap, by the way. So he's not amongst that group anymore. He got there in the end. 9 cars. 8 cars yet to make their stop. In this race, the effective race lead it is. Cameron Dance has it. Russell Clark in 10th. His second, effectively. Matt Marsh and Michael Skurlock are in a close duel for what should be third. Certainly worth keeping an eye on. Mitchell McLeod, though, to see where he emerges in amongst it all. His raw pace should be pretty good. Throwing up 3 of 10. Looking back from Braden Martin, as Russell Marsh looks to challenge him. He's going to have to just sit and wait for the moment as they come across through Reed-Solomon Park. And there is Dennis Hancock, his teammate, Jeremy Bush. He's just ahead of Cameron Dance. He's going to find himself, well, he is finding himself in a pretty bad spot right now. He's going to end up a long way back in the order. Once he does stop, Matthew Mites is showing no signs of wanting to pit out of this stage. Neither is Mitchell McLeod. See how much McLeod gained on Mites on that lap as Jason Fewins looked like he was going to peel off, but in the end decided against it. McLeod did a 2:31.3. Mites a 2:32.6. So Mitchell McLeod 1.3 seconds quicker than Matthew Mites on that previous lap. That shows a lot about the pace difference between them. Russell Clark, meanwhile, did a 2:31.6. So he was 3/10 slower than McLeod, but McLeod's already at about a 6 or 7 second disadvantage to him that he has to overcome. As Jeremy Bush is pitted. Cameron Dance can't look at his lap time because he just came out of pits. That was an out lap for him. But his gap over Clark is promising. Clark isn't getting too much benefit, if any, from the draft. He's 1.5 seconds back, and he might be picking up a very faint effect down the straights, but certainly not enough to make a difference. He needs Dance to make a mistake, or he needs himself to find a little bit more, whether it be in the car or his own driving. Needs some more pace if he wants to win this one. Skurlock and Marsh, by the way, 11th, 9th and 10th. They were 11th and 12th, but they've already picked up a couple spots on this lap thanks to pitters. And Marsh has lost out after jumping Skurlock in pit lane. We saw Marsh running in 5th for pretty much the entirety of race 1, battling with Doyle early on before Doyle made a mistake and took himself out of the picture. Skurlock was closing in, but never really quite got close enough. But now their battle has ignited in the second race, and it certainly seems like Skurlock is the pace, because he is pulling away on this lap. He's pulled a very handy margin, and he should be comfortable by the time they get back to the chase with that. About 15, 20 car lengths between them. Look at the gap. 2 seconds. 1.8 seconds. McLeod is absolutely flying, and Matthew Mites has got absolutely nothing to respond with in terms of pace as he makes a little error at Murray's corner. McLeod's going to be an interesting car to watch as he does a 2:31.0. Mites was about 3 seconds behind Dance before Dance pitted, and there is Dance now, leader of the race effectively. Mites has been losing time to Dance as well. Even though Dance is back here, Dance is lapping quicker than Mites. 2:32.1 for him. Mites did about a 2:33, I suspect. So McLeod not only is going to pass Mites, but then he's probably going to find maybe another 4, 5, 6 seconds maybe to get to Cameron Dance. It's not out of the equation. McLeod's certainly lapping quicker than him right now. 2:31.0 for him, a 2:32.1 for Cameron. 2:31.8 for Russell Clark. Keep an eye on that. 5 laps still to run at the end of this one. Plenty of time at a 6.2 kilometer racetrack. Isaac Summers and Braden Martin going wheel to wheel down towards Griffin's Bend, or, if you watch this year's Bathurst 1000, Penrite Pass. We all know which name we prefer there. Summers on the outside, that was never going to work, but he's kept the overlap. That is brilliant. This gives him the inside for the cutting. Martin doesn't want to give it up, but he kind of has to, because there is no holding it on the outside there. He falls behind Summers. Here's McLeod. On to the back of Matthew Mites, just like that. A 1.6 second gap at the start of the lap. And he's already on his bumper heading down Conrod Straight. He's not being held up by him. He's going to get the benefit of the slingshot. This is going to be a phenomenal lap from McLeod in terms of pace. If he doesn't pit. Into the 30s, I suspect. It's about as easy a move as you'll see in this race. As McLeod puts himself into the lead. Look at the Sector 1 and Sector 2 times. I couldn't tell you what they mean. They seem fast. For the car, that is. A supercars driver would probably scoff at those sector times. Little lock up from the front left as he tips it in. What's the lap time look like for McLeod? 2:30.3. He goes 7/10 quicker than he did on the previous lap. And once Dance crosses the line, it could be about 2 seconds quicker than Dance. He's got Clark right behind him, which suggests that his pace isn't that great right now. What does Dance do? A 2:31.5. So 1.2 seconds slower than McLeod. Clark does a 30.6. This is a really interesting battle. There's 21.4 seconds between them on the racetrack. Mr. Director J, what's the pit lane transit time on your timing screen there? Oh. Well, if McLeod didn't pit in the lane, he'd be even with them, but he has got to stop, and the stop is about 11 seconds. So he's got to find about 9 seconds still. So I was up by a couple seconds on those estimations. He needs 9 seconds to find the 33 overall. He needs to pit and emerge with these two. If they start battling, it's plausible. Right now he's looking at a rejoin. Potentially in the region of 4th, right behind, or slap bang in the middle of Matt Marsh and Dennis Hancock, who are separated by 9 seconds right now. And Marsh is, of course, still trailing Michael Skurlock around the racetrack. Just looking at McLeod's pace on this lap, it isn't that great. Well, he'd taken about a second or so out of... Well, he'd taken about a second and a half out of Mites before he caught the draft. Took a lot out of him on the previous lap, but on this lap, he started the lap 7/10 in front of him. He's only 1.5 in front of him now. So he's only pulled away by about 8/10. We'll see whether that's because Mites has had the draft or whether McLeod's lost a bit of pace. A bit of both. McLeod's 4/10 off what he did in the previous lap, but he's got no draft. Mites does have some draft. Mites does his fastest lap of the race, and McLeod pretty much matches what Russell Clark did on the previous trip. 21 seconds behind him. Jason Fewens comes to pit road. That leaves just 4 drivers to pit. Make that 3 drivers? Clark should pull ahead of him. Yeah, he does. Clark at 31.6. Dance at 32.3. McLeod still quicker, but still not quick enough. Dance has not let Clark get away at all, has he? He is stuck right to him. He does not want to lose another race in this championship. Matt Marsh, speaking of championships, is running 7th still. Fighting for a podium. Not in any danger right now. And if you've ever wanted a close-up view of what the back of a Skip Barber looks like, well, there you have it. From the nose cam of Cameron Dance, getting a screen full of hot fumes and exhaust out the back of that car. There's a slower car up in front of them. That's Peter Wilkinson. There'll be no blue flag shown for him. Just keep an eye on where they catch him. If they haven't caught him by the end of the lap, it might persuade them to pit so that he doesn't hold them up. He isn't obliged to move out of the way, and if I was him, I wouldn't. because he doesn't know where he's going to rejoin and who he could be fighting with. Could be a very close fight between himself and someone else in terms of a pit stop window. Doesn't want to cost himself that time. This is a risk you run with overcutting. You run the polar opposite risk for undercutting, putting yourself into slower traffic that haven't pitted, and you have, albeit it happens much, much earlier on. Lap 7 of 10. McLeod is flying away from Mikes on this one. He's pretty much 3 seconds clear now. He is 3 seconds clear, and he's coming in. So this lap time's not... How's he managed that? So apparently McLeod's short on fuel, which is curious. Be the first driver that's pretty much managed that all season long. So he's going to have to take fuel, which means he is in an awkward spot. If he only needs 3 litres, he should be fine. Not sure how short he is. There go the race leaders, Russell, Clark and Dance. Remember, we figured out that he was going to be about 8 seconds behind them in the end. McLeod comes out in 3rd. That is unexpected. So the 33 seconds fed to me from Jay was slightly inaccurate. And McLeod emerges ahead of Skurlock and Marsh. He was about 28 seconds ahead of them. Great stop from McLeod. Still a chance then. He's about 3 seconds away. There was contact on the last lap between every single one of your top 4 cars in race 1. There's 2 of them now. Dance is hungry to close out the season with a win. Clark as well. It's looking like he's going to be the bridesmaid on the championship. He won't be joining Paul Beatty as champions in that team in Aussie car competition. So Beatty will have bragging rights over him then. But of course, Clark can always just remind him of how to make a proper pit stop. As Cameron Dance has no teammates to work with in this race. He does it all by himself. But he's going to end up quite a way off the championship. Don't think he's done every round. That's the reason there. He's always been fast when he's turned up. Not quite had the luck he's needed, though. That was illustrated highly well in the first race. Everyone's pitted. It's going to be 2 laps to decide this race. There's McLeod. He looms large in the back of shot. 2.3 seconds away. We know he's quicker than them on raw pace. He's going to start to get a faint sniff of the draft on the final lap as well. I wonder if it's possible. I said it might be, then I said it wouldn't be, and now I'm saying it might be possible again. Just about 12 kilometers left in the season. The champion update, Matt Marsh. Skurlock is driving away from him now. There's about 6 or 7 car lengths between them, which equates to about a second or so on the racetrack, but just shy of a second. And Marsh just needs to cruise home from here. Down Mountain Straight, or up Mountain Straight rather. There's an incline to this that you don't see from trackside cameras and are racing too well. There's a massive decline there, obviously. Now the true climb begins. Up the hill, it is still Clark that leads from Dance. McLeod at the line was 2.415 seconds away. Bookmark that time. We'll check it at the beginning of the final lap as well. There's Skurlock and there's Marsh. Both of them have been booted off the podium. And they'll be wondering how that's happened, with McLeod starting 14th and them seeing up 17th and them seeing absolutely nothing of him for the entire race, and now he's ahead of them. Dennis Hancock and Nathan Verney are still dueling out to the end as well. They're running 7th and 8th. They are 11 seconds off the car in front, which is Matthew Mites. Big gap between the top 6 and then the rest of the field. A lot of that might have to do with the chaos on the opening lap when Sean Doyle fenced it and checked up, I think, quite a lot of cars. A lot of smoke at Forest Elbow there as I picked up Skurlock, but we're all still rolling. McLeod might have lost a bit of time. He might have made a mistake because the gap to the leaders for him is 2.58. That's the race lead. It's 2 seconds to Dance, though. Don't think he's got it in him. These colder tyres that he's still bringing up to temperature, should be just coming up to temperature now, are holding him back just a little bit. And as we begin the final lap, it'll be a 2-horse race. Russell Clark will lead heading on to the final lap, but Cameron Dance will be second. Who wins this one? McLeod back there in third, 2.5 seconds away. If Dance gets by on Mountain Straight, it gives Clark the opportunity to get him down Conrod Straight. So I think he wants to sit behind him. He's not going to have to worry about bashing a limiter and not being able to pass him because there's only one car he's getting the slipstream off, not 2 or 3. So he sits and waits. He lifts off the throttle. Just peeking and showing his nose, picking out his braking marker. Crucial that he stays glued to him. Cannot afford to let Russell Clark get away, especially now that he's committed to staying behind him. If he lets Clark get away, he will be kicking himself. But he's stuck to him ever since he passed him earlier on. We only have to do it one more lap. Flat to the floor as they come under the tree. No hint of a lift. And carrying so much speed in these cars across the top of the mountain. There's not much of the brake pedal, if any, being used. And there's not much throttle being let out either. And now they're well and truly hard on the brakes as they head downhill and try to get the car slowed up. Coming to the crucial part of the racetrack for the final time this season. Trying to decide our race winner. Out onto Conrod Straight. That's the gap between the top 2. Look how Dance will close it up though in the slipstream. Look at how Clark moves it back and forth across the racetrack. Trying to keep Dance out of that slipstream in the toe, but here he comes. Clark moves it over and Dance has to take a hard turn to the right to get around him. But he does it. He was in this spot in race 1. Does he hit the curb like race 1? No, he doesn't, and he moves across to the inside line for the chase. That's what undid him in the first race. He's learnt from his mistakes. He's coming out of the last couple of corners now. One more corner to navigate. Clark is still there. He could sneak up the inside. Dance has left the door open. What's he done? He's left it open. Clark's up the inside and they touch. And they're both in the fence. Where's McLeod? McLeod wins it. Mitchell McLeod has won the race. Oh, what have you done? What have you done, Russell Clark and Cameron Dance? Mitchell McLeod has won by 3 seconds, remarkably, over Cameron Dance. Russell Clark is third. But Matt Marsh is officially your champion. He sees chaos across the line, but he doesn't care. He's won the championship. What? Why? So many questions here. One of them is, why did Cameron Dance leave the inside open? Russell Clark was clearly close enough. I wonder if Clark was just surprised to have the inside given to him that he overcooked it and missed the apex. He was so surprised that he had it. It might have thrown him into a twist, and that's why he's made the mistake. They both bounced off the fence and retained a podium at least, but wow, man, that is unexpected. So let's look at your full results before we celebrate Marsh's championship. He's got a ways to go before he gets back to straight to do some burnouts. McLeod wins by 3 seconds from Cameron Dance and Russell Clark. Michael Skolott comes home in 4th ahead of Matt Marsh. Matthew Mites, Nathan Verney, Dennis Hancock, Braden Martin, and Jason Fewins rounded out your top 10. 5th place, not a bad way to finish up the championship there for Marsh. 11th goes to Isaac Summers ahead of Peter Wilkinson. Jeremy Bush comes up to 13th from 22nd. Leon Williams, 14th. Russell Marsh, 15th. Ara Felberg, Cameron Cousins, Brent Volson, Jeffrey, and back at Sulis, your top 20. Again, 20 finishes. 4 retirements this time, with just 24 cars instead of 25. Lassou, Melville, Howe, and Doyle all finishing, unfortunately, as retirements in this race. I still don't know what happened to Cameron Dance there. Hopefully we get to ask him. We'll have a chat first to Russell Clark.
Hello.
Hello. Congratulations on a double podium today. Potentially a win when beckoning in both. That's a good jump from Marsh. What happened in the second race? What?
Well, that's just me teaching Cam what happens when you race a Milo driver. We're known for things like that.
My theory is that you were thrown into a twist by Dance just leaving the inside gapingly wide open for you. Was that it?
Well, actually, in the past, I found the outside there in the last corner is better, and I think Cam knew that, so he defended on the outside, and I had to make the move on the inside, which wasn't ideal, and I copped it up.
Yeah. I think final corner, final lap, never leave that inside open, because that's what happens. You have those sorts of incidents, but nonetheless, you still get a podium. And
yeah, the worst thing about it all is that we've let Mitch McLeod win every single race he's competed in so far.
Yeah, that is a stat that is your fault, and will be forever your fault. And you may have just eclipsed Paul Beatty for the biggest mistake of that Milo Racing team career. So he'll be happy with that.
I am very sorry to everyone.
Hard racing. The good news is he didn't send a championship beckoning. Matt Marsh did enough, and you will finish up in second. Are you happy with the performance over the season?
Well, no. There was about two rounds where I didn't make a major mistake regarding my pit stops. I got a lot of speeding penalties, etc. And we did actually let the team's championship go begging since Ben wasn't able to join the race.
What was up with that? Why couldn't he join?
Yeah, it's just iRacing being iRacing. A lot of us were struggling to get in for the qualifying.
That's a shame to hear. But congratulations then on your podiums, and congratulations on finishing second in the championship. We'll hopefully see you back for the next season.
Yeah, it might be. Congrats to Matt for winning. GG. And also shout out to my teammate for bum drafting me into the wall in the first race. That was great.
Good TV as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
We'll have a chat to our season champion as well, Matt Marsh. Congratulations. You are champion of the 4th season for the Aussie Car Formula Skip Barber Series.
Thank you, mate.
Happy with that?
Very happy with it.
Talk us through your race tonight. It seemed a bit conservative, maybe?
Yeah, I think I was being a bit careful. I wasn't looking to have too many side-by-side across the top of the mountain moments. I was more just trying to consolidate and make sure I kept that lead. I had a nice, comfortable lead, and my main goal was just not to bin it, hey?
Yeah, not something that many of the drivers ahead of you actually managed across both races. A lot of drama up at the front. Maybe for the best, you ended up finishing back in 4th and 5th. You were with Skolott for a lot of the race too, and towards the end of race 1, you got quite close as well. Seemed pretty similar on pace. In the end, he drove away from you. Was that pace, or was that just, again, your conservative? Well, you know what I mean.
No, I think I finished in front of him race 1, and then race 2 we finished pretty much right one before the other. But I was, as I said, on race 2, I wasn't looking to go back and forth. I was kind of just comfortably sitting in behind him, getting that toe, you know. It might have been it was the boring way, but it was the sure way of making sure I ended up here at the end. So
exactly right. Got to play for points sometimes, and that's why you're walking away as a champion. Looking back at the season, might be a silly question to ask, but as champion, do you still feel there's areas you could improve on?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's a few guys in there that are well quicker than me. I think I just made the least amount of errors and turned up the most weeks and tried to squeeze myself onto that podium every week. And yeah, the points just added up. So definitely can improve. A couple of their lap times are just insane. Even coming out of the pits with cold tyres, I don't know how they do it.
Well, they'll be thinking the same thing about you and that championship this season. Congratulations. Who do you want to thank for helping you get it done?
Oh, mate, first of all, thank my partner Tamara for freeing me up every Thursday night and letting me race, which is good. And then also thank my teammate Russell Marsh. I think we had a pretty good showing for the Teams Cup as well. I don't know where I'd have to add it up. I think we might have ended up second in the teams, which is pretty good. And then thanks to all the organisers and Ira and you guys for putting on a great show, and all the boys for some good racing. It was a really, really good season, this one. So all the racing was clean, everyone got on, it was really good.
Congratulations once again, thank you very much.
Thanks, fellas, catch ya.
Love a chat to Ira Felberg as well. Ira, congratulations on your races today. You're finishing 16th in race 2, backwards a little bit, but overall, decent season?
Yeah, thanks guys. I wouldn't worry about talking about me too much, mid-packer, but had a good race with Russell there at the end. We were up a few more spots and then I just tagged him at the chase. I had it all set up, and on the flip-flop, on the switchover, I just misjudged it, and so I waited up at the line and redressed, though that cost me a few spots. But having said that, I've been banging on the door on a couple of top 10s and I'm slowly getting better in these cars. So yeah, I just really quickly wanted to say thanks to you guys. Sorry for running a bit late tonight, and we did have a few internet issues. There was a couple of guys unfortunately couldn't get in, and I got in late as well, so we're running over a little bit. But yeah, just want to quickly really thank you guys for making us look good every week. Also Prestige Trophies for the awesome trophies, and Virtual Motorsport Mentor and Simfinity. It's been a great season. We really got something going here with the skippies now, so yeah, a couple of weeks off just for Chrissy and New Year's, and then back into it.
We look forward to it. Thank you for putting it all together, Ira. Hopefully I'll chat to you again next season.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
And by demand of the man himself, Cameron Dance gets an interview. Cameron, you could have won both races. You didn't win either race. What happened?
Oh, well, race 1 was... Well, actually, both cases. I think it was just more or less the hard racing between me and Russell and me and Mitch at the end of the day. It was one of those things where the guy on the outside kind of cops it second best if the guy on the inside doesn't quite get it right. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, it was all pretty good racing and really, really fun. So yeah, can't complain too much. So wasn't quite for the championship that I hoped it would be, but end of the day, it was a lot of fun.
Race 1, you clobbered the curb, couldn't get to the inside. But race 2, you have the opportunity. You left the inside wide open. Russell Clark saying, look, the outside's the best way through that corner. But on the last corner of the last lap, surely you don't offer up that opportunity for Russell Clark to do exactly what he did?
Yeah, it's one of those corners where the guy on the outside's going to get the better momentum, well, be able to carry a lot more momentum and get the better run on the exit, which kind of more or less sort of proved itself in some respects in race 1 when Mitch went to the inside and had to go like really, really deep, and I ended up getting a nice clean run through but didn't quite get him to the line. So
Cameron,
yeah,
Mitch won that race, so
well, bear in mind, I nearly set it up. I nearly got him. It was half a car length, right? But yeah, it's just one of those corners where you have to look at it and go, there's going to be benefits for either party, and then there's going to be disadvantages for both parties at the end of the day. So it is what it is, though. So I'm not going to complain either way.
A big disadvantage for both parties in the end of that one. You mentioned not quite the championship you hoped for. Imagine you'll be back for next season, back in the new year, and going for a championship win outright that time?
Yeah, I'll have to see what happens. I might be back for another season. Might have to jump in the comms box with you, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Definitely looking forward to next year and what Ira's got planned with a few different things as well as the F1 series. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Please don't jump in the comms box. Anyway, thank you, Cameron, for joining us once more. Anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, just shout out to you guys for the awesome broadcast, Ira for the awesome series as always, and tech sensors, rental harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight Colorectal Cancer, Hyperstimulator, Kiwi Simulators, and all the boys for the awesome racing.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next season.
Will do.
Cameron Jantz comes home as the bridesmaid in race 2, and that just about does us for this season of the Aussie Car Formula Skip Barber Series. Been a cracking one. Matt Marsh is your champion, Simspeed and virtual motorsport mentor, and Prestige Trophy badge and engraving, helping make it possible as well. But more of us up in the booth. My name is Ryan Jones, Jay Kennedy alongside me in the director's chair.
Oh, yes.
And Cameron Jantz is still chilling here as well. And from David Haynes, who was also on the columns for the majority of the season as well. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next season.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top here.
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?